First of all, we're from California. Both my husband and I were born and raised by the beach. So in some ways it was kind of a natural, not that we ever thought we were going to do this for a living. But I met my husband back in 1987, and I was working in a store, and he was actually building a sculpture out in front of the store that I worked in, and they were taking volunteers to help out in the sculpture. So I would get off work and I'd go in and play in the sand after I get off work during the day. It was a sculpture in a mall. It was one of the first sculptures in a mall. And when that first sculpture happened, it just exploded. Like 30 years later, and this is what we're still doing for a living. So every sculpture we do is individually tailored for each event. We never do the same sculpture twice. But there's certain things that crowds like. When we do our like cartoon type characters, people really, really love that. It makes them more fun. It kind of brings them more to life, and people can really relate to that. No, it's not the finished product, and people say, well, don't you get upset when they have to knock it down? And for us, it's always been the process and not the finished product. And we've always known that they're going to come down. It's sand. It's the nature of what we do. If it's not the tide coming in, it's a bulldozer. So we don't get attached in that way. Well, we knew that there were sponsors involved, so we wanted to make sure that we brought out the side of that sponsor that's important to them. Whether it's their logo or just adding a character, that represents them. And I know that a lot of people who live in the city don't often know where their food comes from. And I think that's a good thing to show the people and teach the people. And this group is great. It's been a really nice, relaxed family atmosphere. And for us, that's really important. I mean, mentally, and for doing the sculpture, because they've been so appreciative. We try to tell people, make sure you look at the sculpture, look at all the details, look at all the nuances, because sometimes people look in, they just look at it and they go, oh, that's great, and then they walk away. And we're going, you should really walk around it and see what's going on, and just appreciate the fact that in a week's time, this is not going to be here anymore. This is it. So this is the only time you're going to see it. And then it's gone. Seeing it in person is always a highlight for people. And they walk in and they can't believe how big it is. And then I say, well, you should see some of the other sculptures we do, because this is 50 tons. Biggest one I've worked on is 5,000 tons. And they actually had a train that went through the sculpture, so you could look at it, as you drove through on the train. I really like how the corn turned out. I don't know why, it's just a personal preference, but I really like how the corn turned out, because I think it just really helps set the mood of the project. And they're huge. Can you imagine what the popcorn would look like if we popped this stuff?